Thanks for tuning in to 101.3 BKMG The Farce, coming to you live from separate places, pre-recorded. Now presenting The Bane and Mickey Show. Welcome to the Bane and Mickey Show.
Yes. Hi. Welcome back. Hello, everyone.
I know you missed us. It's okay to admit it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what else would you do in your life, you know?
Besides listen to our podcast. Maybe listen to a better podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, you could. Uh-huh. I guess. I suppose.
I don't know why you would do such a thing, but, you could do it if you want.
I know. What? Gavin, have you watched anything good recently?
Well, so Disney Plus was putting out this new show. It was kind of a spin-off sequel to the Mighty Ducks movies from like the 90s.
Uh-huh.
So I watched all three of those and then I started watching the show, but that led me into watching Dawson's Creek because they both have Josh Jackson in them.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, how do you get from Mighty Ducks to Dawson's Creek? But that okay.
Easily.
Very easily, apparently.
And then after that I might watch Fringe also because of Josh Jackson.
Uh-huh.
And also because I like James Van Der Beek. I don't like Dawson though. I think Dawson sucks.
Yeah.
That's my review of Dawson's Creek. Go Pacey.
That's a very
Fuck you,
professional
Dawson.
review. I think they need to, consider hiring you.
I mean, I was a little late for it, but you're right. I'm going to travel back in time and be like, you guys should hire me. It's the right thing to do.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Very important.
Van Der Beek, what's up, buddy? Like, I literally have never seen you. I was like, that's okay.
Yeah.
What drivel have you been watching?
I watched that Alabama snake documentary that I think Maria suggested about the snake handler priest people. It was interesting.
Yeah.
I was surprised how much video footage they have. But they have a lot. Apparently, snake handling was pretty wild. Is pretty wild.
I would imagine it would be.
So, yeah. It's interesting. Not for everyone, though, because, I don't know, it can get pretty detailed. But it's, if you like documentaries, and it's kind of culty-ish, so, if you like culty religious documentaries, then sure.
Yay, culty religious documentaries.
Don't join a cult. Just kidding. Join our cult. Don't do
It's
it.
not a cult. It's the good kind. It's the okay kind of cult. It's fine.
Speaking
if you join
of
ours, you're not going to be in trouble.
I'm kidding.
It's
Today...
kind of not that inaccurate. We're going to talk about Hollyweird.
Hollyweird, keeping it woodsy. What?
Woohoo.
Yeah, today we're going to talk about... We figured we would talk about Hollywood and specifically why neither one of us wants to move down there. And
because
also why it's not...
It sounds terrible.
Yeah, and also why it's... not, you do you. Everyone is entitled to do whatever they want, but also as a filmmaker and a young filmmaker, it's not always required, which I think is kind of the impression or what kind of the assumption when you're young or when you're first starting your career or your education, that you're like, oh, I've got to get down to Hollywood, but it's definitely changed over the years. Originally back in the 30s that was the only place to go, but options are much broader now, so
which is good.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons. Because I feel like I definitely don't want to move to Hollywood for film to start off. But if it was more like, say I was actually already working and doing things and it became more convenient for me to live there, then I'd probably move down to LA, Hollywood area.
Yeah,
but I would definitely not try to start out there.
Yeah, if you were consistently getting offered jobs down there, then yeah, it's better than flying every so often, which it, is understand, plenty of artists do that too, you'll see them move over there or whatever. Have you
Just sort of
always,
depends on your life.
yeah, and your work and what kind of jobs you're doing and whatnot. What or have you always not wanted to go down there, or was there a point in time where you wanted to, where you were kind of,
Probably when I was younger,
mhm,
just because that's where the work is.
yeah,
And so, I mean, I can kind of respect that. But as we're sort of learning now, there's more than one way to get the work done,
yeah, yeah,
which
and
has
I
sort of
think,
been a bonus,
yeah, and I think,
one of the positive
going
outcomes.
going to school and even just being an attentive artist, you can kind of learn where else the work is too. Like, yeah, when I was in high school and first starting college, like, yeah, the impression was that the work was really only down in California because that's what you're told again. But as you watch or as you go through school, you learn that the work is elsewhere, either by talking. We have plenty of professors who work in the industry who have done so all over the country and the world, and then also at the same time, I think when you are an active audience member, and you pay attention to movies and the credits, like they always say at the end where they were filmed, or film,
Hmm.
thanks to blah blah
I
blah.
mean,
And
there's a
so
lot
then
of
you can,
international stuff.
yeah, but you start to recognize patterns too, where you're like, oh, not everything was
There's a
filmed in
lot of stuff here.
California, which also makes sense because California has very specific terrain and you can't.
Well, and I think that like it's just because there's a lot of stuff based there. That's where all the big studios are based, pretty much. That's where a lot of actors are. That's where a lot of sets and studios are. That's got nice weather. It's one of the reasons everything moved there in the first place, is because it's always sunnier. So, and
Hmm.
there are still a lot of options for terrains. Like in the whole of California, you have like beaches, you have deserts, you have mountains, you have forests. So there's a lot of stuff still that you can like do terrain wise just in the California area.
Yeah,
But we do also have that like here in Washington, depending. So,
yeah, yeah.
and
I mean,
that's how a lot of people define their success is I made it, I'm going Hollywood, woo.
yeah,
But then you hear all the millions and millions of horror stories. So is it really worth it? I think not.
yeah. Speaking of horror stories, I think over the years, more things that have turned me off even further are like I've had friends who have come down to who have gone down to California, or who were down there before, and and they've just talked about it, or like if they were down there, checking in with them, and hearing their perspective and just an experience of someone down there, especially someone trying to break it into the industry. It's pretty hard and it's not super ideal and it is very selective, it's all industry based. So,
And the other thing is like trying to make a splash in a big pond, like being a little fish in a big pond.
yeah.
Like if you're in LA, everyone there is either a writer, director, producer. They're all trying to do some sort of film something or other. So it's a lot harder because there's a lot more competition,
Yeah.
which is why if you go to smaller markets, like you mentioned on here, like Seattle, what were the other ones? Seattle, New York. I wouldn't go to Georgia, but I guess if you really wanted to, you could.
Hmm. Well,
I
or
would have gone to
even,
Georgia until recently.
yeah, or even like especially in the Pacific Northwest, like Vancouver, Washington,
Hmm.
is really good for TV, um, and stuff. But yeah, like it's so uh competitive down there. Like, yeah, you really just have to. It's really just by chance, that you could meet the right person or stumble
And it's all
upon.
about connections.
Yeah, yeah. And then at the same time, it's also like, you know, it's so toxic in like so many ways. Like
Hmm.
just because people assume that you're since you're an artist or since you're in especially in LA that you'll do anything. Like because it's so competitive, you could lose your job like that. So it's like, they
Right.
assume that you have to do this thing or you'll lose your job, and since you won't be able to find another job, you'll do it automatically. Like we have a friend who was down there before school, who consistently worked down there, and just like the crazy hours that like you're working like 20 hours a day.
And it's because it's like the culture they set up too
Yeah,
is that they make you feel that way because they were sort of like that way, so they're just sort of passing the buck,
yeah, it's like
which
an unending
it feels like
cycle.
it's maybe changing a little bit now. So it's getting a little better. Where like you sort of had they had a shitty time getting in, so they're gonna make your time trying to get in shitty.
Right.
So they're trying to make it seem harder, and
which which is
like you
also
were saying,
like,
like you're desperate. If you are desperate, which a lot of them probably are, by the time they actually get hired,
uh-huh.
then you feel like you don't have as many options,
Yeah.
especially if you don't have like a safety net or anything.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, okay, why do we have to repeat the cycle? But I think Hollywood has also just always been so toxic in so many ways. In its history, you can go back to the 20s and it's the exact same in a different sense because it was new, but at the same time it hasn't changed much, unfortunately. But and
It's
I'm
just gotten a lot more subtle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very. Yeah. And I mean, quick disclaimer, because like neither you of I have been down there or worked down there. I mean, I've been
No,
to California and to LA, but not like as a working person. So this is
no.
just our opinions and based on other friends' experiences and and whatever. So, but
And like there's good stuff about it too. I mean, like the some of our negatives are also sort of positives. Like that's where all the studios are. That's where
uh huh.
everybody is. You can make better connections with people. Um, you have easier access to people who want to do the work, and it's not just
Oh
you
yeah.
roping in your friends. The equipment's easier to access, and like there are good things about living down there. It just seems that unless you have a community or you are going into a job down there, or you already live there, you're
Uh
lucky
huh.
enough to already be down there. It seems like, or if you're well off and you can afford to live down there for a little while,
Hmm.
like, but if you're like us and you're sort of broke ass college kids and you can't just up and move your life and live like a hobo for
Yeah.
however long you need to get your job or your break in or whatever it is, then it's probably not the best idea.
Yeah, it's really not a good place to start out, because you will just be like living in your car because it's so expensive to live down there. I have a friend who went down there after college to live that LA dream, and there it was impossible to get jobs. I think they ended up working at a movie theater for a while, but then you're stuck in that loop of the hours are so busy and then you can't work at other jobs. But it was just even just working at the theater like was it's so expensive to live down there, and transportation is LA is known for its traffic, and he could attest to that. Like he would bike to work, didn't drive a car because it was kind of pointless. But yeah, it's like it's not a good place to start
Mostly
out
need somewhere to
unless
live.
unless you are lucky enough to already be down there or already have connections or be getting a job or whatever. But
Hmm. Like I wouldn't go down there unless I had something to go down there for.
right, yeah, yeah,
Like if they said we're going to hire you and you're going to be doing this for, even if it was so like if you were getting some sort of job like that and you were down there, like just I'm just reiterating my point. But if I
right.
had a job to go down there for, I would go there. Same thing with like if I was going to move to New York. Like there's the part of me that's like, oh yeah, New York's cool. There's the bustling nightlife and everything. But then also you hear about how busy and dirty and kind of gross it is. I would definitely not live in the city. I would live in maybe the state.
Uh-huh.
somewhere, like in an outskirt, sort of. But I don't think I would be able to live in the city that much. I think I would hate it. It's way too many people, and I like my space.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah.
it's expensive again.
Yeah. And I think also again just reiterating like that's the common practice was just to go down to LA, and you'll see it in so many movies, in like um La La Land, or like
Hmm.
I guess the TV show Hollywood, like that was, I mean, that, in the 60s, in the 50s, that that even like the 80s, like that was the only way, you like, cuz that really was the only place that the industry was functioning and working from, so you had to go down there, and then, everyone always it's like cliche, but like part of an artist's story to get caught in that like drudgy LA like starving artist life. I mean, I think that's kind of where the starving artist like thing started, especially in film, So it's like,
Hmm.
yeah, but luckily, I think luckily for us, we are in a new age and a new generation where we don't have to do that. Um,
Thank you, internet.
yeah, right, right, exactly. Even
Internet and
even just the internet makes it so much easier
phones
to
and
find
everything.
find jobs elsewhere. Um,
Find jobs, or even just like create your own jobs.
yeah,
Like YouTube
yeah,
is. I mean, again, that's becoming harder and harder to like
because
be
there's
well
so
known
many
or
people. It's so
right, but
popular now.
still, it's like another way that you can. But you can just create your own work essentially, or you can share your own work a lot easier. So,
Yeah,
like, say when you were younger, like if you made a little film on your in your backyard, and good or not, you could still share it to everybody. But before it was not as it's not as accessible.
yeah. God.
Sorry, my cat just jumped on my leg and she fell off, and she has very pointy claws.
Oh, kitty.
It's okay. She's cute,
um,
so I forgive her.
yeah, and I think, the big question, which also we've touched upon, but is it necessary, to move down to LA? And I think the answer is no, especially in this day and age. Um, it depends.
At least not immediately,
Yeah, not immediately. It depends. It certainly depends where you are, where you're living, and where you're based, because every state is different,
and where you want to go.
and where you want to go. True, and what you want to be doing in the industry and in the art form. But like, I think we're lucky enough to be in Washington, because Washington in the Pacific Northwest is a really good film hub. But if you're kind of more Midwest, it's a little harder.
Hmm.
Everything is more spread out and kind of less densely populated. So, that would be maybe where you want to move out to a different state or whatever. And then if you live on the East Coast, again, it's kind of similar
Well,
to the Pacific Northwest, where in the top, or in the north and in the south, they're both kind of fairly productive and populated but it does just depend where you are. But to be honest, the work is anywhere and everywhere if you want it to be. I mean, there are
well,
also,
Austin is also. Sorry.
oh, Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah, Texas is
Austin's sort of
also,
starting to become a big film place.
yeah.
I thought about moving down there for a
And
little
they
bit.
have their film school too, the
Hmm.
down there, which,
You know,
yeah. So yeah, Texas is pretty big as well. But it's also like, to be honest, films and production crews move everywhere to get that perfect scene, especially if they're filming on location. You won't get like um a studio job in freaking Colorado. But, a crew might go over there to film a location specific piece, and then you just got to look out for those casting calls, because a lot of times cast and crew, they want to work locally, because it's a legal thing, they have to, because it's a whole legality of like trying not to take work away from locals, which is important. And then also, because it's cheap, they don't have to fly in and move their crew and cast over there. And then also, it's just especially with cast, you know, if you're trying to get that authenticity of locale or something. So sometimes you just got to pay attention to those things. And again, that's where we're lucky to have like the internet and in this day and age, because it's so easy to find those things on casting calls, on backstage, on Facebook. Even there's Facebook groups for indie and film and stuff, you know. And then there's also just so many, like, every
Right.
state and every area has agencies. And so, you know, you apply for an agency, the worst they could say is no, and so you apply to another one. And then they basically get the work for you. And that's more of an acting thing
That's
compared to
true.
like a crew thing, but there are agencies for cinematographers and for technicians. It's kind of like if you were to join a union, like here in Washington, I have a couple friends who are part of the theater union, and so they they get jobs regularly at the Fifth or at the Paramount, just doing load-in and stuff because they're part of the union, and so they're legally able to do that work. But you know, shows will tour from New York. You'll have big shows touring over to Seattle, and they need people to load in the stage and the scenery and the tech and everything and set it up. And so they'll just have local crew members do it. And so you get these great opportunities to be like, oh yeah, I loaded in freaking Newsies or whatever, or another big show.
Or another big show.
My mind blanked on like
Just like
every
us, the biggest
musical ever.
show.
But yeah, I mean, the jobs are out there. You just got to look for it. And sometimes you got to make it yourself, you know, especially if you're going the indie route. Got to make the jobs yourself, but you can connect with other people. You know, Jack and I have started to kind of, we've really been trying to build our communication and our network. And so like we have you know, we've worked with a couple musicians over the last couple years for scores. I have a couple I have a friend who's a writer, who's a lit major and a poet, and so you know we've started working with them to expand, you know, our stories and stuff. And I mean, yeah, sure, those are people
It's
that we
also
know or
why film
whatever.
festivals are good.
Yeah, but you know, fine. I think when we found, oh, we have a graphic designer that we always go to for posters, and like with the posters and with like the musician, those are things like we didn't know those people, but they went to our school, and so I think we just posted, or maybe we asked. I think we asked in the music department, hey, does anyone compose music? Would anyone be interested in composing for a film? And so that's how we found Max. And then I think the same kind of thing for the poster. They might have been a mutual friend, but you know, you just kind of sometimes you just gotta pitch it. It's helpful when you're in university because you can just go to a specific department and kind of pitch like, hey, we're looking for this, and then you know, people in that department
Another
will be like,
benefit
sure,
of being a creative in school. You
yeah,
can be like, hey, you're an art
and going
person.
to
Do
school
you
like
make
that.
posters for me?
And I mean, you know, specified film schools and art schools are great and all, but then, you know, if you go to a non-specific university, you have so much available to you um, that, yeah, you can find. Um, but then, you know, yeah, I mean, I'd say Facebook groups are amazing because, especially if you're looking for more of that indie film route, because there's so many groups, especially locale based. So, you know, I'm a part of like 5 or 6 Pacific Northwest groups. And every day, you know, it's just like, hey, we need a PA for the day because ours dropped. Hey, we're looking for a production designer for this shoot. It's a week long. It'll be in June. Hey, we're looking for anyone who's nice at, you know, and it's a lot of it is just people who just don't know other people, so they're trying to connect, and it's great because then you get to meet other people outside of your immediate friend group and get some work. Again, it's not all of it's paid, but there you will find jobs that are paid, but then that also gets you like it gets you um, credits and your portfolio built, so that when you do get a point of like, trying to find a union um, position or something, you can be like, hey, I worked on this thing and it wasn't just a college student film.
Most of my credits are self-made. All of
Yeah,
them.
right.
I've never
Like
been paid for a job in my whole life.
that's the hard part is like getting, yeah, like I have a lot of credits that are like, I have an IMDb page and most of them are credits from from you know short films and stuff that I've worked on through college or through Jack and I's productions. I have like one film that was not any either of those things, but I wasn't paid because it was more of like an internship position. But yeah, it's
Right.
like you trying to get some of those because people you can kind of tell. Not I don't know, but if you can see those credits and kind of be like, huh, they're still working on getting out there.
There's shiz.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, speaking of moving or trying to find the locale you want, you need to know what it is that you want to do as an artist and what you want to do in the industry. Like, we've talked
Right.
about Seattle is very corporate based. So if you are interested in corporate film, that's like commercials
Mm-hmm.
um, and stuff, then that's a great place to be because that's what a lot of the work is. Um, extended Pacific Northwest, Vancouver, Washington and Canada, Oregon, Idaho,
Mm-hmm.
Washington, they're all very indie film and a lot of indie television. Um,
That's what I'm working on.
what American Vandals was filmed down in Oregon, as well as there's another Netflix show that got canceled that was filmed down in Oregon. But like I have a friend who was extras in like both of those because they live down there, and it was just like, hey, we need extras, especially people that look like high school students.
Unfortunately, I can't pass for a high school student anymore because I have no hair. I could put a wig on, I guess,
Yeah,
but I
but you'd
used
be
to
a
be able
very
to.
tall high school student.
I was a tall high school student. I was this tall in high school,
Really? I mean, that's
but
fair, I guess.
when I had hair,
Hmm.
I've had a beard for a while, but if I just shaved it off and I kind of like ruffle it up, I definitely looked like a teenage lad. But now I look and sound like an old man.
That just took me a second to remember what you looked like with hair.
That's all right. It's hard to remember. Well, I also have pretty much the whole time we've known each other. I've also had the beard, so it's hard to
Yeah,
remember what I
yeah,
look like
that's
without
true.
it.
Yeah,
But I
but
used to be able to. I used to be able to pass for it. Now I cannot. But also because the youth infuriate me. So they'd be like, "Want to come join us on the I don't know the Twitch?" And I'd be like, "What the hell is a Twitch? You got something wrong with your eye?
yeah,
I got a cream for that."
oh my gosh, honestly. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the Pacific Northwest area. Or I mean, but again, you do get a lot of indie films that film over here. Captain Fantastic was filmed in Washington, which I talk about way too much. And I was actually rewatching it, and I totally forgot that they go to SeaTac at the end, and it's so crazy because to anyone it would just seem like a normal airport, but I think I probably grew up going to SeaTac way too often. So when I see that, I'm just like, "Aw, that's I know that place." Um, and then
SeaTac
Man
is
in the
so
High
big.
Castle was filmed over here. Um, not in Seattle. Well, they filmed like two shots in Seattle, but they filmed kind of in the central eastern Washington area. For a lot of that, in the first season, they go to like a random middle of nowhere town. Um, Chronicle, that's an old film, but they filmed it over here. Um, oh, Laggies, I think is what it's called. It's a film they filmed a couple scenes at my high school, but they filmed over here in Seattle. Um, but you do get films like that because they're just looking for that locale um, and that location based set, so you can get stuff like that. do.
Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, down in LA, if you really wanted to go to that studio based setting where you're basically only working in studio lots and it's all very CGI, special effects and whatnot, that's what's down in Hollywood because they don't have
They have a lot of TV down
it's
there. I mean,
it's
they have a lot of
city
other stuff too.
yeah, it's city based though, so they have very specific scenery and whatnot. So they have Hollywood Boulevard and all the studio lots so that they can manipulate and create these new worlds. Um, but that's
There's
what
also
the kind of work you want to do.
like Vancouver, BC
Uh huh.
has a lot of stuff up there. Toronto has a lot of stuff. There's a lot of
Vancouver
film up
films a
there.
lot of television.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of
CW, it's
television.
all
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver based,
Uh huh.
except for I feel like I just saw. Oh, there's a show on CW. It's Walker. It's the Walker reboot with Jared Padalecki's filming down in Texas,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
but it's still part of the CW. Um, so like one of our friends, Noah, he moved to Chicago, but he wants to do a lot of improv and comedy stuff, which is a good place to do that because there's like Second City,
Uh huh.
things like that. Then New York is also good for like live theater, Broadway, um, a lot of show. Well, I don't know how many shows actually film up there, but like SNL's up there. It's a good place for comedy,
Yeah.
and because there's a ton of clubs. I remember I was listening to a podcast. It was ID10T with Chris Hardwick, and a lot of times he talks about how, or Pete Holmes. You made it
Yeah.
weird with Pete Holmes.
Yeah.
They talk about like how New York is a really good spot for stand up because there's a lot of little clubs and bigger clubs, and you can kind of move around and it's easier to practice your sets and things like that. So
Uh.
if you want to do more like TV like that, oh, they do a
Mhm.
lot of talk shows up there.
Yeah, I was gonna say a lot of
So
talk shows and news shows and stuff and hosted shows are
so if
in
you
New
want to do
York.
news, I mean news is everywhere also, but
Yeah.
if you want big time news, New York's probably the place for you.
Yeah. And then I think, I think we've also talked about this recently, but Georgia is kind of the new Hollywood in a way. There's a lot of films that film down there. The Spider-Man reboots have all been filmed down there, as well as like a few of the other
Almost a lot of the
Avengers
Marvel
movies.
stuff gets filmed down there.
Yeah. Television gets filmed down there all the time. Stranger Things is filmed down there. The
Walking
Walking
Dead.
Dead was filmed down there. Um, you know, and I think The Walking Dead and like kind of that era, like 2010s, is kind of when Georgia kind of started breaking into that kind of um, thing. But you'll notice, I mean, you go to a movie or you watch a TV show, and if you sit all the way through the credits at the very end, you'll have the little Georgia Peach like thing at the end, and you'll be like, oh, it was filmed,
Made in
But
Georgia.
it's amazing how many things are filmed down there. But they're kind of a mix of everything. They have studio based stuff. There's a few studio lots outside of the city. That's where like Stranger Things is filmed. Um, there's a lot of indie kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure Devil All the Time was filmed down there.
Probably.
And that was location based. There's I think Georgia's is the place to go for a lot of dramatic stuff compared to like corporate media, but it's you can go down there. The Walking Dead is location based. They don't really use studios. Um,
Though there's a lot of problematic stuff in Georgia going on right now.
right,
So I
yeah,
would
like
not move there or work there.
it's not really the best time right now to be going down there, which I've been wanting to go down there for the last couple years. I think I was probably a junior when I realized that that's a place where a lot of good work is, and so it's like that was kind of my LA in a sense, like working to that goal, working to that point. And then I've postponed it a little bit because of a couple other jobs I've gotten, like theater stuff. And then originally when I get back to Washington, I was gonna go. Actually, I think I'll be in Washington when this episode airs. But when I was gonna go down to Georgia almost immediately, and then I think with COVID it was kind of like maybe not right now, and then I keep moving more than is ideal, so just kind of mentally wanting to take a break from that, and then also politically and socially right now it's kind of messy and complicated, so I'm still just kind of waiting and holding off a bit, but we'll see. I do have a friend actually that just well he'll be graduating in the next month or so, but he'll be moving down there to work on in some film stuff.
Is it Jordan?
No.
Oh. Then I don't care.
He mostly does puppetry and ceramic stuff, and so
gotcha.
He'll be going down there to work on that.
Like a crew type person.
Yeah. Wait, is Jordan not a crew type person?
That's not what I meant. I meant more like grips and electricians.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Carpenters and stuff like that.
Yeah.
More manly than Jordan.
Oh.
I'm just kidding, Jordan. You're the manliest boy in school. Have a popsicle.
Aw.
Speaking
of Jordan, I'm going to be helping him on his senior capstone. He's so grown up. Oh,
what a big
baby.
boy.
Him and Derek and Taylor, they're all growing up. They're all going to be graduating.
They're probably going to be much more better and more famous than us.
Literally a year younger than me. But I remember when Jordan was just a wee little boy on the set of Blue Haze. I think he was our AD, I think. No. Our second AD, because Jack was the AD, I think. But he was just such a youngin'. No, on Blue Haze. Such a youngin', such a small boy. He also played a Fry Guy.
Yes, he did. Handful of spuds.
Yep.
You mean potatoes? Go check out Blue Haze on YouTube now.
Oh, God. Or don't. It's fine. You don't have to.
Do it. Do it.
Do it for the cringe and for Gavin.
Thank you. Detective LP's Oil. And if you like my starring role in that, you can see my cameo in Jack's film, I Hate You, Dad.
The extended universe of...
It's pretty much the same guy. And if you like that, I'm sure somewhere exists off the record where I play a record store owner, not to brag.
And pretty soon, maybe you'll be in 2 Pints, where you play Todd.
Man, if 2 Pints ever comes out, we'll have to bring those kids on.
Oh, we for sure will. I just want,
Coming 2025.
Oh my God.
Shot in 27.
We keep saying that so much that, like, at this point, I think it just should never be released. It's like a secret.
I know Kevin's mixing audio, but he's also been busy with...
But he's been mixing audio for the last, year and a half. I'm kidding.
It's gone through 3 or 4 different changes. I haven't seen it recently. But every time, it always starts the conversation. It's today he would tell me, oh yeah, it's looking really good. But then next month he'd be like, I hate this show. And then he's not going to look at it for a few months. He's like, you know what? It's actually pretty funny. I think I know what we're going to do to fix it. And then he'll make those changes and forget about it for a few more months and be like, I hate this show.
Sometimes though, especially when you are the only person in post or whatever, you do just start hating everything you see. And so you do need to take those breaks from it.
Luckily for us, we split that responsibility, sort of.
Kind of. It was still, we still did need to take a break. We didn't start. Wait.
I mean, we took a break right after. We didn't just jump right into it.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they've sort of been working on and off, but they've both, Kevin and Sonova have been very busy with other life stuff. So
right. It happens.
We can't blame them too much. We just want it to be released. And I think lots of people do.
And it's also one of those things, too, where it is your child and your baby. And so it's got to be it's got to be perfect.
But at a certain point, you got to let it go because it'll never be perfect enough.
Right. Exactly.
Which is sort of one of those things you have to learn is that
let it go and
you can edit and edit and edit till the cows come home, but you just have to. Sometimes you have to let it go. At some point, you have to let it go.
Why did you say that?
What?
Till the cows come home.
It's a very common expression. It's like playing possum.
Okay, Gavin. Okay.
Have you never
Um,
heard the expression playing possum?
no, I have.
Thank
I
goodness.
think the last time I heard the expression "till the cows come home,"
I'm actually
I don't
from the
even
early
know.
1900s. Give me a break. I've been alive for a long time. Cut me some slack.
Okay, okay.
I'm still trying to catch up on the lingo.
I mean, I do
I
have
think
that
I
photo
finally.
of you from the Western 1800 cowboy days, so.
What? Oh, I thought this was a real photo.
No.
It is a real
It
photo.
is a real photo, but it was a
Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. It's not Photoshop. It's my
um
real actual
maybe
photo.
we'll post it on the Instagram sometime.
Yes.
Anyways, I think we've kind of rambled off about this for a while, but like
All this really to say, is it necessary to move to Hollywood? No.
not no, not
But
always.
it also depends on your goals and what you want to do with your life. And if you want to move down to Hollywood, well, you just go ahead and move to Hollywood.
By all means,
Kendall and I personally are not going to do so right away.
yeah, we won't be joining you right now, but by all
However,
means, give
if any
us,
studios are
you know,
listening and want to
oh
give us
god.
jobs, I will move there tomorrow, as long as there's a job.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I think final. I think we've kind of reiterated quite a few stuff, but final recap and final point being that like, yeah, if you want to do work, you got to go out and find it, and sometimes you got to make it yourself. Whether that's messing around with friends or whatever, um, finding groups, finding online groups, and then yeah, I mean the reason Georgia started out or Georgia became such a big play filming location is because of uh, tax laws. There are tax laws that benefit filmmakers. Um, I don't know specifically what they are or what they're called because I definitely paid attention in producing class. Sorry, Michael, but there every state has different laws and different tax laws, and a lot of them have to do, especially for film, a lot of them have to do, like we said, with hiring locals, and getting that local work, and so that can be very beneficial. But there are like things that um, get you uh, tax exemption and stuff that take advantage of that, especially if you're an indie filmmaker. It really saves money, but you just gotta do your
So
research and
wherever
look
you're
into
at,
those
look
things.
into your tax laws
Yeah, yeah, and
and what
there's
sort of
plenty of
bonuses you can get.
yeah, there's bonuses and benefits. So, but yeah, you know, go to Hollywood. Don't go to Hollywood. Go to Georgia. Don't go to Georgia. Go to New York. Go to Seattle. Do you figure out what you want to do? I think when we talked about going to school and being in university, it really helped us kind of figure out what we want to do as artists. We had to take different classes, like we had to take a documentary class and a corporate media class and like a dramatic film class, and so you're expected and made to take all this variety of stuff to kind of play around in those different mediums. And so like I know I don't really like corporate media. Fine. I have friends who love corporate media and that's all they do.
I don't like documentaries that much.
Yeah,
I sort of like the style, but I'm not a
you don't
big,
like making them.
not particularly.
Yeah, but and that's just another benefit of going to school too, is getting that variety and kind of getting to play around. University is your time where, yeah, it matters, but it's also like you have that freedom and that time to just play around and experiment. So that
You don't
when
have to
you're
waste
then
time at
when
jobs.
you're done, like Gavin and I now know what we want to do and what we want to be making and what kind of stuff. So another advantage
Yes.
if that's in your boat or up your alley. Cool. I think
Shall we do a
we've
random topic?
yeah, I think we've probably rambled enough, and they're all just like, God, this is so boring. Go back to talking about films. But
Talk about stuff we care about, you
I
idiots.
know, right? All right, here we go. Random topic. What color should we do today?
Blue.
What? What is the stupidest thing you've ever said?
I
Well,
don't
I
know.
know the stupidest thing
Today?
Gavin's ever said, which is when the cows come home.
That's not the stupidest thing I ever said, you idiot.
I don't. God, I don't know. Like, I don't have a typist over there on their typewriter typing up
I don't
the everything I say.
transcript.
The transcript, yeah.
I feel like that
That'd
was
be
the
kind of great,
stupidest thing
though.
Kendall just said.
Okay, you know what, Gavin? Oh, no. You know the stupidest thing I ever said? It was me talking to Jack and saying, hey, you know what? We should make a film noir about drugs and call it Blue Haze.
No. The stupidest thing that you probably said to Jack or Jack said to you was, we should hire Gavin to be
Hey,
the
you know
detective.
how we had that one person that we literally wrote this script for? Yeah. Let's scrap that and hire Gavin.
Listen, I can't...
I think that was one of the best things I've ever said. I think that was a great decision.
Listen, it's not my fault that I crushed it at a table read where I wasn't even auditioning.
Oh my god.
And you guys were like, wow, he's so much better and more talented than any actor we've ever worked with. We should work with him. You hadn't worked with Garrett at that point, so it's still a true statement.
I think you fit the role well. And I'm glad
I guess you had
we
Isaac
hired
there.
you.
Never mind. There was a lot of better actors in that movie.
Oh my god.
I just had that specific blend of corny and
that was also
gravitas.
One of Derek's first roles too.
Wow, way to go, Derek.
Such a small boy.
Little
Doing
boy.
drugs
Little
in the
guy.
back of the cafe. Don't do drugs, kids.
Thinking he likes Christian Bale's Batman
Oh my gosh.
instead of Kilmer or Clooney. I think one of the stupidest things I ever said was I was watching Whiplash, and for those of you that don't know, J.K. Simmons is super jacked, and so he wears a lot of t-shirts in that movie, so his biceps are like
they
bulging
are.
out.
Oh my gosh.
He's a really fit fellow, but that's not the point. Point is, I saw these
The point is,
bulging
Gavin
biceps.
wants to be J.K. Simmons.
Who doesn't want it? If you don't want to be J.K. Simmons, then I don't even know what you're doing with your life. I would love to be J.K. Simmons. I will never be J.K. Simmons.
Remember how
the only thing
Garrett
that we have in common is that we both know Garrett.
Yeah, I was going to say, remember how Garrett just casually played softball with him one day? Okay, anyways, what were you saying about his biceps? That's how he gets them. He gets them by playing softball.
Probably. Or that's why he has them, is for softball.
Yeah.
But I was watching and I said, man, his biceps are so big, he could probably crush a grape.
like in
That's
between the indent in your elbow, or arm, how are you
It was
crushing?
not even... I mean, probably... I meant just like
with your fingers.
I mean, he could... it just slipped out. I don't know why I said grape.
One day...
It just slipped out.
One day...
If I ever meet J.K. Simmons and we're pals, I'm going to have him crush a grape for me.
Yeah.
I hope he doesn't hear this.
And if I get there first, I'll ask him and I'll video record it for you.
Thank you.
Just for you.
Appreciate it.
Do
you want to do another one or end on that one?
I think that one was pretty good. We never,
right.
It's the luck of the draw. We never know what we're going to get. And I think we got to end while we have a good one.
Like a box of chocolates.
Yep. That is what this shoebox of sticky notes is. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
You never know.
At the end of our podcast. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Thanks for listening to our rambles.
Come back next week for not a Hollywood discussion.
Yeah. Hopefully these episodes are, enjoyable and give you some good insight and advice and thoughts. Again, we're not trained professionals or the most I don't know. Anyways,
we're just a couple of amateurs BSing our way through life, talking about movies and such.
We're just talking about the things we enjoy, okay? God. And hopefully you enjoy listening to it. So if not, you would probably tell us, right? Right?
No.
Okay.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear the positive. I want to live in an echo chamber.
I want to live in an echo chamber. Chamber.
And on that note, we should probably bid you adieu.
Adieu. Okay.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Have a good week. See you next time. Follow us on social media, BetaMickey_podcast on Instagram. And we'll see you later.